It's the fastest mile and a half in the South. Atlanta Motor Speedway, the IORA Cup Series returns to once again, and for the first time in its history on iRacing, we come to this track at night. Race 2 of Season 6 is just moments away from bringing the green flag to you live on FTN, and back in Hampton, Georgia, the stadium lights will bring all the action to you for 120 laps here in IORA. Daytona International Speedway, we started with Daniel Mosteller going toe-to-toe for the race victory and the winningest driver in league history able to get through with a SuperSpeedway victory of epic proportion. But tonight, it's a track that's often been seen on the schedule, but not in this form. We're expecting different driving styles to come into play. Brand new drivers still going to be littering the field, and the veterans will have to do battle, some of which returning for the first time this season on a track that's, relatively speaking, untested compared to usual. Night Atlanta going to bring the new challenge as drivers are in group qualifying right now, and you can see quite a few of them making it now through the start-finish line. Michael Deitch is going to be one of which in that 17 among many others. So as it stands, Deitch is going to be on his way to number 17 this year. Let's take a look at the driver who's got provisional pole, Alex Anderson, former race leader, of course, when it comes to multiple time in the IORA Cup Series and former owner, but not yet with a checkered flag in the Cup Series in several seasons. And now he's coming back, giving it a chance, and you can see number 67 getting up and on his way. That's Alex Anderson making the move onto a very, very full circuit. 200 miles, 120 laps. That's what's on the table for drivers today. Henry Kalloff's going to be making it through as well. Group qualifying means that drivers once again are at the will of the field. Major wreck with Bryce Kohler and them way back there. 5 minutes and 58 seconds left, and time still counting down. It looks like for the number 67 of Anderson, he's gotten in a line once more. Jesse Martinez, one of the rookies to look out for. Very strong performance in Daytona, but he finds himself alone as it stands. So let's see if he can find a bit of a group to get with and maybe pull himself together for the remainder of this session from here on out. But Martinez, you'll see him there alone. Marcus Vanderlee, Clark Nance have also returned, and Corey Lyles, who's a former SuperSpeedway winner. You saw him there on pit row with Michael Deitch, and backwards is Alexander Balderas. Rena Bloom in the chat room, of course, someone we've seen many a time on Friday nights, but we have a few of our drivers from Prodigy Racing Association also coming over. Jacob Wilkerson, who's found success on Saturdays with SNT, also making the move back to the track in IORA. He's got himself third on the board right now with Aiden Walker just behind. And let's see now if this three-car group can make more waves. Right now, they're sitting second, third, fifth on the board. So this is one of the most potent lineups of small groups in the entire field. Let's see what they can do with that, as it looks like right now they're building up momentum on the top side, and that looks to be the way to go. As you'll see, Jacob Wilkerson here is going to lead him through. Henry Kalloff's got a real good angle. And what to expect as another batch comes in. Nathan Palawada 3 wide there with Vincent Guecci making it by. He's got Jim Thurston up on the top side, and also with them Daniel Mosteller, a man who's already got a race victory and doesn't have to worry all too much about anything else for now. There's Clark Nance getting on the way. Corey Lyles going to be right there too. And River Page, defending series champion, now bringing himself back out for what could be his final 5 laps at the very most. Pack is going to go by once again. It looks like led by the number 78 machine. That's going to be Nathan Palawada. Nathan now going to be right there with Thurston, the Power Smash Infinity Speed drivers. Teammates, no less, working with each other once more. Take a look on board as you'll see from the hood perspective of the number 96 of Thurston. He's got his teammate there, and they're cutting a hole in this track. Down to the inside, Palawada's going to go. That's going to leave Thurston to have to let off just a little bit more, and as a result, Guecci goes by, and as Vinny makes it through, so does Alex Anderson. Beaver Serrano as well, so I think now Thurston intentionally perhaps hanging back. You'll see the driver telemetry for him as he makes his way up through the mile-an-hour range. Not going to be going up or down through the gears tonight. Everyone's going to be staying in fourth if they want to keep it calm and collected with high speed. Guecci can have an incident, and Thurston gets a piece of it. We're hearing the track rather loose tonight, and it's going to be slick conditions, which don't help out these drivers at all. Here comes Vincent Guecci. Now down to pit road, there's the number 88 machine, and there is Alexander Balderas. Weather tonight, relatively mild as well, so there's nothing too concerning with regards to our forecast. Still going to be track conditions that are unknown with this night setup. Drivers going to be having to approach this circuit differently. Here's the number 37 of Jake Raven, and with them going to be the number 21 of Bryce Kohler. And it looks like now racing alongside each other for the first time. Jake making his first career IORA Cup Series start. Bryce making his second of the season and his second in the brand new 21 Motorcraft scheme. Both drivers now going to find themselves on the back end of the timing sheets. However, Jake Raven very quick in practice, so if he does get a good group around him, doesn't mean there's no potential, just means right now the results are not there. Currently sitting 15th after that lap, and with 2 minutes still remaining, I highly doubt that Jake is going to sit in 15th. I think now he's going to try to find a bigger group to keep on helping him out as the session progresses here, and I think he's just found that in Will Shack and Corey Lyles alike. They're getting up here with Clark Nance, Daniel Mosteller, and it looks like Alex Anderson. There's Hunter Bogdan, Aiden Walker as well. So here comes another big group coming to the line with 1:40 left on the timing sheet. Let's see now if they can maybe rock the field and get up there to the pole position. At the line, Bogdan going to be there with Alex Anderson, and now 1:30 left. About 2 or 3 laps at the very most they can get if they put it all together at the right time. Bogdan now racing down the back straightaway, has himself just ahead of Alex Anderson, and it looks like he's going to keep himself out there, cutting the hole for the rest of the field. Lyles loosen up the track, trouble again. That will bring Clark Nance, and it's going to bring Will Shack up and over, and you can see there just a little bit of a jitter is going to bring the field into chaos, so hopefully we don't see that come into effect all too much. Here's Casey Benson, the number 27 in his first start of the season. Casey going to avoid that, and right now, sitting on pit road is Clark Nance, and so is your provisional pole sitter, Alex Anderson, comfortable and confident with the time he has. Let's see if anyone can beat it, namely Nathan Palawato right now, second on the timing charts, looking to defend on the front row and maybe get the pole position. Let's see what can happen here with less than 40 seconds left. He'll have one good lap to get out of it here, so let's see what Nathan can do. Vincent Guecci coming up, as is Thurston and company. Nathan's going to wiggle up high. Looks like now giving room to Bryce Kohler, and Bryce is going to take it down to the bottom side, get the minor advantage, and race down the back straight, giving a little bit more draft to those just behind. Hunter Bogdan additionally there with Vincent Guecci, but to no avail for either of them just yet. Final 15 seconds of this session. You see Palawato up top, still looking to build a little bit of speed, and he's coming in with Vincent Guecci and company here one last time. They get to the start-finish line. They can continue and finish their lap in group qualifying format. Now 40 seconds left on the clock of overtime. Everyone destroys themselves behind. Palawato with no help. Bogdan slides up, almost gets to the Lyles and Casey Benz. Lyles is going to get away, but Benz spins, and so Corey decides to go down the track. That's several qualifying runs all done at once. Pit road is very busy now, and River Page looks to be the only driver trying to take a lap, although it looks like it will be fruitless. Nothing going to come out of this one, and it looks like, just like that, Rex conclude qualifying, and the lineup remains exactly the same as it was just a minute ago. It's official. In its return race in Season 6, Alex Anderson collects the pole position for the first time in Atlanta for the number 67 team. Well, you might remember when we went here with the Next Gens about 2 seasons ago, Season 4, for our second race, the 67 team also won the pole position. It was Chad Thornquist behind the wheel that day. Anderson has been the only driver of the 67 ever since, and tonight he starts at the top of the board. Taking a look at our starting grid from top to bottom, let's get to know the field here in Atlanta. An exciting track to be at, and for the first time under the lights here, thanks to iRacing's nighttime system, bringing Atlanta into the fold and bringing Alex Anderson into the pole position conversation. He'll win the pole by a convincing 79/1000ths of a second over Nathan Palawato. He'll be starting in the runner-up spot. Then from here, you got Jesse Martinez, the rookie, alongside Vincent Guecci, both of which with strong runs at Daytona. Your defending champion River Page starts behind his Bassism teammate. It's Page and Thurston, row 3. Henry Kaloff is going to be 7th, and Aiden Walker will be 8th with a 30.8 second lap time. Jacob Wilkerson, Hunter Bogdan conclude the top 10, both of which with very strong times, and Wilkerson the last of which inside the 30-second bracket. Then you have yourself 11th place. That's going to be Corey Lyles. Bryce Kohler is in 12th. Michael Deitch 13th, and Clark Nance P14. Jake Raven from the Prodigy Racing Association Legacy Truck Series comes to IORA for his very first start. Tonight he will be starting in the 15th spot, and Marcus Vanderlee will be 16th in the triple-digit threat. Casey Bentz bringing the number 27 back into the fold. 31.866 time puts him in 17th, with 18th going to Aaron Schugel, and then Jacques Carter in 19th. P20, it's going to be the rookie, the 82, Andres Varas. You got then 21st position out of the 28 that have registered so far. Looks like it's going to be Daniel Mosteller, who finds himself inside of row 11. Your, of course, most recent race winner. Next to your most recent second place finisher. They were first and second. They finished the race on row 1 last week. They'll be in row 11 to start. Then you have, of course, Samedo, Balderas, Serrano, Mancini, and Will Shack to round out the starting grid from Georgia. It's time now to move on to our main event. Starting grid is concluded, and we are rolling from Atlanta. Alex Anderson going to find himself on the bottom of the circuit, leading the way for this opening lap. Only one, of course, pace lap here at a track over long 1 mile. Weather tonight, let's talk about it. We mentioned it briefly, and at this big track, it could impact the already very slick circuit. Taking a look overhead, the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway here, you'll see one thing is for certain. It is traditional when it comes to its shape. However, with banking now more than 28 degrees throughout all 4 corners, the weather tonight will make a difference. Track temperature of 85 degrees right now, but a relative humidity of 34%. Add to that a brand new setup for nighttime racing at this circuit. Drivers have been slipping and sliding all throughout the session so far, and admittedly, we are bound to see that repeat itself time and time again tonight. So keep a watch out for the field as they try to keep things under wraps early, but expect chaos as we are bringing ourselves to the start-finish line to kick off this race here from Hampton, Georgia. Alex Anderson, former league owner, gets the call to bring the field back to green. Grabbing the gears, the 67 leads the way, and we are back on the move from Atlanta for 200 miles of super speedway action. Right now, Nathan Palawada going to find himself advantageous. He's got the race lead, and it looks like now the outside groove getting a better jump of those two who started up and in front. Clark Nance in the chat room giving, I think, the most important piece of information for every driver today. It is loose, and every driver's been feeling it. Now, slick track temperature, of course, coming with that humidity. Track temp isn't everything, but the conditions are impacted by the weather as the night goes on, so keep that in mind here as Anderson finds himself on the bottom. You do not want to bobble below the paint and come back up the track. That would be destructive, and of course drivers know that, so you can see already an air of caution all throughout the pack. It's a big separation between Casey Bentz and Michael Deitch. That's 14th to 15th here, and as you can clearly see, the number 17 machine finds himself far behind that of the 27, and even then further back it's going to be Jake Raven sitting with Clark Nance, the final bridge between the two groups. So it looks like right now trying to drive smarter, maybe not even having much control of it to begin with. You don't want to get yourself in an incident. That might be the mindset right now for drivers. I would not be surprised if that were to be the case. So as it stands, you'll have Alex Anderson and River Page, both of them going at it, and the number 67, he'll go up high, try to make a move, but really not going to make much of it, just going to keep on defending rather than going for anything on the offense. Side by side, Henry Kaloff going to make the move and stick it down low. And with that, you'll find the 96 of Thurston dropping low now. Teammates are going to find themselves a little bit further separate than they'd like. And this time, Thurston's going to be abandoning those who are on the high side who are working with him, or they could be, as the race progresses. Some of the lessons learned from, of course, when we went racing last time around at Daytona. I think the biggest thing comes down to how these drivers try to manage and maneuver across the lines. Now, most often at superspeedway races, communication is key. Atlanta, there's a little bit more than communication that goes to it, because even if you know who you want to work with and you know when you want to make the moves, the track is unforgiving, and that's not including the discussion of weather that we're going to be having today all night long, and the discussion of the setup. It just comes down to the track being very narrow, and it's a matter of fact that compared to other superspeedway style circuits, there's no comparison throughout the world. You could even go international. You could say the Monza Oval, which at a time was the fastest paved oval circuit in the world, rivaling the likes of Daytona and Talladega. Well, it's wider than both of which, and you could say it has slightly progressive banking on the apron. It's not as abrupt a transition, even though Atlanta has made moves in the future to try again and maybe make it a little bit more progressive for those who go down by mistake. Either way, it's unforgiving tonight, and I think the drivers are going to treat it as such all race long, which is good to see, because these drivers right now are very much holding themselves back, restricting themselves for the sake of survival. One faster pair, but we saw many a driver go through it last week. You really do not want to drill through it once again. Two drivers did not start this race, Jason Sametto and Marcus Vanderlee. In their place, the 99 of Chase Schaefer. He finds himself the final driver to load in the session, and he missed the start, missed qualifying, and he was registered 28th and last. You didn't even see him on the starting grid. That is how late he showed up. However, Chase is with us now and running the purple paint scheme last week. Looks like cycling through those colors of the rainbow, Monster Designs, the very well-known and quite familiar blue, returns to the 99 machine, and Chase Schaefer once again back in action. He's due to go one lap down right now, but the way things are looking, so you better find a way out of this before he ends up in a much bigger load of trouble. Maybe not just one lap down, but wrecked if he involves himself with the race leaders up and ahead. Henry Kaloff going to lead now to lap number 10, and they're going to swallow up Chase Schaefer as he decides to take it up top, and as he goes upstairs, the leaders have no trouble in passing him by. Number 63 of Henry Kaloff right now going to occupy the inside line. James Thurston finds himself in the middle. Top side is going to let the lapper of Chase Schaefer through, but immediately begin developing again. Looks like Alex Anderson rather confident in his stuff today and hoping to keep it up there on the wall without any trouble. The wall here in Atlanta, also something that is unforgiving. That's one thing that iRacing has yet to perfect, shall we say. The safer barrier, something that of course isn't as necessary in virtual racing because you don't get hurt in most instances. Some drivers do get injured, but in completely different ways. The barrier, it doesn't need that level of absorption as it does in the real world, and while a marvel of modern engineering, the safer barrier also could be tricky for iRacing to interpret because these cars are close to each other, and more than that, they're close to the wall, so any minor netcode could lead to a driver shooting up into the outside wall and bringing chaos onto the field. As you can see now, double file, Anderson's up in the wall, and this is what we meant. Down low, Alex Anderson. Does he save it? Yes, he does. Alex Anderson, what a save. And that's a textbook example of those barriers being so tricky. Wonderful work by Anderson, and moreover, look at that from Aaron Schugel. He was tapped, and the PRA Truck Series champion lives to see another day. Both drivers, whew, that was, I would say, a heart stopper. Nevertheless, the field stays green as a result, and that's the consequence of going 3 wide so early. Unfortunately, Alex Anderson will be the man to pay the price. And since we have a little bit of time, let's take a look at that instant replay and show you what just happened as Alex Anderson is going to escape his race, perhaps being ended just like that. Here's an instant replay on the matter. Oh, he just got loose again! Anderson taking a look back live, he saves it, and it looks like all is well, but he's got to get himself out of the pack here. I would think his tires are squealing at this point, and he's definitely going to be an uncompetitive driver for the rest of this stint. Now coming up on Daniel Mosteller, and Anderson now is in real big trouble, getting loose, and I figure he's going to try to keep on holding on to it, but it's not going to be a good deal for him. Let's see whether or not he can sustain himself as, oh goodness, the 67 just can't make it through the corners anymore. And there's Andres Varas, the rookie, trying to deal with it as well, but Anderson has gone down now to 24th place. Mind you, he started on the pole. He's now down to 24th. And second to last is 25th. He's going now with Varas toe-to-toe, and this would be the battle for 25th. And just a matter of moments changed this race. Alex Anderson, yes, he did a wonderful job in saving his equipment and not getting wrecked, but honestly, that might have been the worst thing that happened to him. Aaron Schugel is still in 7th, mind you, so despite the fact that he did get contact, he saved it, did a great job at that, and now he finds himself up in the mix just outside of the top 5, and he's got rookie Jesse Martinez to catch up to, but the interval, 5 full seconds. It's a completely different frame between Pack A and Pack B. A little bit of a wiggle there from Nathan Palawada up to the high side. It looks like just like that. The number 78 machine a little bit loose again, and you can see how it's a little bit of a reverse accordion. Everyone's stretching to the backside, and a 37 of Jake Raven finding himself down low is going to have to adapt to it. Raven right now is in 15th relative to a driver he's well familiar with, and Aaron Schugel and Corey Lyles alike, both of which are up in front compared to Raven. However, Jake has a tendency and almost a knack for finding the podium positions no matter the type of race it is, especially when it comes down to late in the going. Might not be the strongest driver to start the day, but regardless of which, done a real good job of finding his way into good positions no matter where we go. So I wouldn't be surprised if that versatility comes back into play as the season goes on here, but Jake, of course, getting his feet wet, making his very first starts. Maybe the expectations not as high for a driver of course, his inexperience in this series. Atlanta, of course, the track anyone can drive, put their foot to the floor, but it's a little bit more challenging than that as Michael Deitch gets in the wall, and he is wobbling up and down the track. Got to watch out for that 3-lined wall. It's got the wall grooves right on it, and it's a green monster. Maybe not as tall as that in Fenway Park, but tonight it will be as treacherous and maybe a little bit more so for the drivers. Now it's going to be Daniel Mosteller coming up. This is the fight for 14th, 15th, and 16th here, with Alexander Balderas also getting in the mix. Balderas making his first start in what will be a part-time campaign, was not able to make it to Daytona. However, the one-time IORA Cup Series race winner has once again set foot in this series for now the 5th consecutive season, one of the oldest drivers in the field, and he's been here since the very beginning. Just ahead of Raven now, who falls back into 16th. Antonio Mancini right there with Bryce Calder. And now, of course, trying to keep that distance. Mancini, a driver who oftentimes finds himself very close to other drivers around him in the superspeedway field. And most drivers in this field have experienced that firsthand. But tonight, there's no incentive for being a close-cut racer. There's more incentive in being patient. Up top, Bogdan gonna get loose, and Hunter has to give a little bit more room. Beaver Serrano, maybe a little bit of a tap there from the 27, Casey Bentz, but it looks like that wasn't quite the case. Beaver now going to make his way through number 66 machine down low, and he comes with the 27. 21 laps in out of 120 so far. Andres Varas going to be in this single pack bunch. No trouble so far for the back of the field. The front runners are still quite tight. 99 machine of Chase Schaefer. Oh, he's a lapper, but he's up there, and it looks like now they're going to have to use Chase Schaefer to their advantage. Maybe siphoning a little bit of that fuel mileage off him is what Thurston is doing, and the 96 has decided to make use of a driver like the 99 to his advantage. For the time being, of course, let's see what Chase Schaefer can do with that as he finds himself getting that experience leading the field, although he is dead last on the track. Nobody is a lap down right now. Alex Anderson will be the next man to go a lap down. By the way things are going, he is losing many seconds a lap, losing about 2 seconds a lap as a matter of fact now, but as high as 5 seconds a lap very recently. That gap keeps on growing, but for Chase Schaefer, he has held a very constant gap between he and the race leader. It's pretty interesting now as you see it. There's Thurston. He's the man who's on top. However, for Chase Schaefer, who's in dead last, well, you can see 31.4 seconds for most of these last few laps here. He's the leader of this train, and now he's looking to hold fort until the first pit cycle of the night. We are expecting to see a two-stop race with 120 laps on the table. Intermediate races have been slightly extended with our earlier start time. We are getting the opportunity to get more racing laps in, and of course, the IORA Cup Series. We've been priding ourselves in the past few seasons just getting better and better, getting better racing in, getting longer green flag stints in, and regardless of the trouble, well, found ourselves now in a good position to give these drivers a little bit more free rein. So races are being extended by about 20% in most circumstances, some of which are still going to be the original 100 lap for intermediates or mileage equivalent of 150 miles, give or take. Now you can see drivers are benefiting from the opportunity of getting that experience running longer, and so far the second pack has decided to definitely look forward to making this race all about getting back in front. Aaron Schugel there with Nathan Palawater running single file. Meanwhile, it's a double file group up and ahead. Looks like clearly different priorities right now between these two groups. Right now, Chase Schaefer, while yes, he has some control up front, he is not the clear line leader, whereas the other groups who are more than 5 seconds back, yeah, they clearly have their own priorities straight. Aiden Walker now is line leader for Group B. And for Group C, Will Shack would be line leader. He finds himself there, and that's not going to be the case any longer as Clark Nance now goes down and under. They might be swapping leaders to try to get better runs by letting different drivers take command when they get that burst of drafting speed. And when they break the toe, then they'll send another driver to the back and restart the motion once again. Side drafting very ineffective when it comes to building speed at a super speedway, and so far for the leaders, well, it looks like yes, they are slightly slower than those who are behind them, but there's no real gains or losses yet. Looks like now Jesse Martinez is going to be fading back and down and into pit road. 27 laps in, nearly missing the commitment code, but he'll make his way in nevertheless, and so he's going to abandon that lead pack early on and disconnect Jesse Martinez, first retiree of the day, and it looks like a forced retirement outside of the sim. Unfortunate for the rookie who's done a real good job so far, finding himself at the head of the field in both races. But once again, fruits of his labor will not be shown, which is the biggest shame of all. So now it's going to be the driver of the number 88, Vincent Guecci, running P2. Thurston and Schaefer find themselves as the overall leaders, and they're coming up on lapper Alex Anderson here. Keep a tight watch on Alex Anderson, and hopefully his tires have come back in a better spirit, shall we say, after the kerfuffle of the last 10 or so laps. Anderson's going to have a chance now to duck down in the line, and he gets just ahead of Henry Kaloff, so he's got now the perfect opportunity to really settle himself back in. Maybe to fight for the lucky dog position with Chase Schaefer, but so far, yeah, Chase has himself in the best position a lap driver can be, the leader of the main pack. He's got himself a role, he's got himself a reason to be up there, and the drivers are going to be friendlier to him as a result. He's not racing them for position, but instead, he finds himself in the mix, giving them a reason to lay back and be a little bit more conservative, which might not look exciting for the time being, but it surely is perhaps the most exciting news a driver can get. You don't have to worry about fuel, you can go a little bit longer, and maybe you can stretch things out that much further. We're expecting the pit window to open in some 10 laps for drivers who have not been mindful about their fuel, but for those who have been a little bit more meticulous, shall we say, they have an opportunity now to get themselves settled in to go maybe longer. The one-stop strategy might come into play as a result. However, that's going to be extremely risky. We do have an 80% fuel limit. So for all pit stops, 80% of the maximum allowed fill capacity will be given. You're not going to be able to get those extra 20% short of going down a pit road again and getting it in a second stop and cycle. So drivers do not have much an incentive to go extremely long if they simply put can't. And instead, you're going to see now the field getting locked and loaded to do it once more. 32 laps in out of 120. Look further back. There's Pack 2. Michael Deitch, number 17, is going to have the 87 of Daniel Mosteller right there with. And got to commend Daniel Mosteller, the number 87. The mini stocks just came to iRacing, and as a result, he was one of the very first drivers to race them in Mooncar, and he was able to get the very first mini stock victory in Mooncar with an IORA branded paint scheme. Had the IORA logo on the hood and the side as the only branding on an otherwise matte black car, and Daniel Mosteller, of course, showing that awareness for IORA all throughout the iRacing scene, and great to have Daniel Mosteller, sort of a brand ambassador for this league since the very beginning. Season 1 champion, Season 2 champion, and Season 4 runner-up. Position 3 in the championship standings last season, and already your leader after a winner in this season. Daniel Mosteller has something of a dynasty when it comes to IORA, and right now in 13th, it looks like Alexander Balderas is going to drop low. Is that unforced error? It looks like it is. Jake Raven gets away from it, and Balderas nearly causing a little bit of trouble there as the number 95 has to get out of the way. Antonio Mancini, more of the same. Antonio the Lapper going to have to be mindful here as Bryce Kohler gets loose himself. 21 machine has to save it, and it looks like he will stay on the circuit. That is not a call down a pit road. Instead, it looks like just losing a little bit of control, and it looks like the 21 put it back together again. Good to see that as the head of the field is still single file. It looks like all the groups right now are single file, and it's going to bring us into this sort of cycle. Yes, these drivers still want to get to the race leaders. They still think they have a chance, and not to say they don't, but at this rate, it's not like you're racing for the race lead. You do not want to give up what you have in a caution. Looks like for the time being, drivers find themselves more organized than ever before, and in these opening laps, as the track continues to stay at a very static sunset, looks like it's been a very slow one at that. The full night sky has not yet come in. Expected to come in perhaps in the final 20-25 laps, and the stadium lights will be on, and it'll be drivers prime time here in the IORA Cup Series, going back at it, looking to, of course, begin the championship fight. A lot of drivers who are at the top 10 of this, course, field, even if they're in the second pack, are going to be competitors for the title all season long. Have a good feeling about Jacob Wilkerson. He has proven his intermediate prowess against IORA drivers on Saturday nights, where he races against the likes of which, including Alexander Balderas, Thurston, and as well River Page. So he has been going up against the best talent as Alexander Balderas, it looks like, abruptly pulls down a pit road, and let's see why that happened here. The 95 has the potential to be our second retiree, and let's see what just caused it here. 95 of Balderas is going down and in, and rather quickly gets out of the cockpit. So it looks like Balderas, another driver like Jesse Martinez, to have some out-of-sim trouble, shall we say. Although it looks like now he's back in the cockpit here, so he went down a pit road as the caution flies. Yellow flag's out. Thurston's going to go around for a slide. Looks like he saves it, yes, but Henry Kaloff also slowed too, and the caution is out regardless. Incident involving the number 96, but it looks like Thurston got it back on the way. What happened here was the 96 of Thurston riding right behind Vincent Guecci. Looks like with Chase Schaefer there too. They were double file. Looks like the Lapper getting contact with Guecci. They all save it. 1, 2, 3. Thurston, yes, goes around for a spin, but everyone keeps straight, and the yellow flag is out. By all accounts, lucky that's all what this incident was. Could have been substantially worse. And it wasn't. Caution's going to fly. 39 laps in out of 120 here. Coming to lap 40 up next, and it's going to be River Page leading the way now as we get through the first third of this event. River going to head down a pit road and open up the pit cycle. From here, it should be a one-stop race as we come in at the third-way marker. 40 laps in out of 120 when pit road gets busy. Alexander Balderas went into the pit road just before the caution came out, interestingly enough, and so now he finds all the field coming with, it looks like, Will Shack almost missing the commitment cone, but everyone's going to be just fine on the way through. So now, as drivers make their way in, let's take a look now at that pit exit camera and see what exactly is going on as the field gets together. You're going to see now, looks like Demos is going to come out quick after his stop, and as such, it's going to be River Page coming across the line with Corey Lyles. Then from there, you have Vincent Guecci. Guecci just made it through. Then you'll have immediately thereafter Aiden Walker, then Jacob Wilkerson, Sean Rowe, Henry Kaloff, Nathan Palawada, and Aaron Schugel rounding out the top 10. Daniel Mosteller more than likely missed his pit stall, and he's going to have to come down to pit road again if he wants to get a fresh set of rubber. So a major error for the 87. Demos here still on his old pit stint, and as a result, we're due to see him come down to pit road once again in just a few moments. Gonna get ready to go back racing in just 2 laps time. We'll be going green at lap number 42. Daniel Mosteller here gonna have to head right down and into pit road once again. So as he makes it in, it's gonna be River Page, your race leader, and Mosteller gonna fall to the end of the field as a result. Corey Lau is going to start beside him. Vincent Guecci, involved in that incident, is still going to be up in front, and it looks like all the drivers who were in that wreck are still going to have a chance to keep on going no matter what occurred. Here's Thurston now after some extended damage repair. It looks like it was a minor and more on the backside of the 96, so it's good enough for him to keep on going in this race regardless of what just happened. It looks like the PSISM team, PASISM, still has all 3 of their cars out there on the track, and flagship driver Thurston will not be terminally harmed tonight, at least in that first wreck. Now we're 2x2 once more. That will bring Aiden Walker down to the bottom of the line. It'll be River Page once again, the control car, as the field heads through pit road. Once again, of course, one driver only. Rest of the field went in the lap prior. Daniel Mosteller gets back with the field, and so everyone is fully assembled, and pit cycle has been complete for the first time tonight. Expect next in about 40 laps time drivers to head down to pit road unless incidents do continue to occur, but so far you've seen an air of caution which has progressed in this opening portion of the night. Now let's see what happens here as drivers bunch up to the pace car again and are ready to go green. iRacing pace car will let loose and bring the field back to action. It's going to be 42 laps in out of 120, and it's Aiden Walker and River Page up and in front to bring the field back to green. First restart of the day, the defending champ is on the roll, and here we have it. River Page brings the field through the start-finish line, and we are back under green here from Atlanta. Into the twilight hours here in Atlanta, you can see side by side for the opening lap, but it's already beginning to simmer down as quick as we saw it. Pace lap is not going to be representative of all too much in the racing tonight, at least from what we've seen so far. These groups tend to scatter very quick, especially compared to when we went to old Atlanta or when we went here during the day. Now it's going to be Corey Lyles getting a shove to get up in front with Vincent Guecci right beside him. 2x2 for the race leaders here, and of course one misstep could be major. That's of course why they're giving each other quite a lot of room and not letting anyone up there in that third highest groove as they go up to the ceiling, and they become that much riskier to keep it there consistently for a full run. Even a lap could cause trouble, as we saw with Alex Anderson, and right now some of our former winning contenders find themselves all the way at the tail end. Here's Jim Thurston. Finds himself right now in 19th and going down to the inside. Yellow flag is out once again, second time today, and it looks like it's going to be Jake Raven among many others involved. Aaron Schugel catches a piece, and he's going to be not totaled, but back-end damage is evident. Yellow flag is out again. Let's take a look here at the instant replay and figure out what caused it for our second yellow flag of the day. unfortunately, this is where we see, for the first time, cautions breeding cautions. It looks like there, Corey Lyles hooks up into River Page, then gets Nathan Palawada, then Michael Deitch. Daniel Mosteller has to dive and avoid, and a few race-winning contenders caught up in that one. Page is going to barely be able to get through. It looks like he's just under Aaron Schugel and Jake Raven, not to mention Nathan Palawada, only to hit Michael Deitch immediately. Palawada comes down, Thurston comes even further under, and it looks like for the number 96, just barely gets away. Jacques Carter, Beaver Serrano also involved there. But it looks like Daniel Mosteller, one of the ones who got lucky and made it away from that incident, largely speaking, unscathed. Take a look on board with the number 87. Having a slide down low and a very quick pass there for Daniel Mosteller. Great execution to just barely make it by, and you can see the track is clear behind him after that incident. Cautions out, 46 laps in out of 120, and Demos is going to cycle up to the top 5 as a result of that fantastic wreck avoidance. Moving up ahead, Aiden Walker is going to have himself the race lead. 93 Machina Walker, Jacob Wilkerson is in second, and Jim Thurston, he's P3. So far, the drivers who are running inside of this podium step, of course, all three of which have found success in the IORA Cup Series before. Walker looking for his first win in several seasons, and he was very quick at Daytona. Matter of fact, with just about 5 laps to go, he was the man leading from the World Center of Racing. However, things just did not fall into his place at the end. And it looks like most drivers went down to pit road here, and Jake Raven is the first man out, and he's now going to find himself overall in 5th after having to take his one and only faster pair. In addition, it looks like multiple other drivers have taken their faster pair. There's one of which, that's the number 63 of Henry Kaloff. It looks like Nathan Palawada also going to have to go through and use its fasty, but not many others have done so at this point, and we'll see who decides to go for it up next. Hopefully, not many drivers required from this point onward. But now as the field is set to go back green with 1 lap to go in this yellow flag period, it'll be lap number 48 and only 6 laps between restarts here. So after a good opening stint, looks like trouble beginning here from Atlanta. We're going to go green this time by. Looks like Walker going to remain on the front row, and it's going to be Thurston on the bottom. For the 96 machine of Thurston, who was involved in the first caution, it looks like this is his saving race. Only 6 laps between stints here, so very interesting to see most of the field coming down and in. Perhaps hoping to go longer. Topping off on fuel. For Thurston, though, if there is another yellow flag, he is the winner out of this one, big time, of course. He got the damage repaired. He has himself back up to full health, shall we say, with his car. And it shouldn't be all too much trouble for him henceforth, staying with the pack, even though, of course, he was involved in that wreck. Still an extra faster pair, which is expected for drivers to use if necessary. For guys like Thurston and Walker who have not needed to use it, they got an opportunity now to just race a little bit more aggressively, although I'm sure with yellow flags maybe coming out quicker now, we'd hope to see drivers a little calmer once again. Not yet to the halfway point, but we are getting close, and we're getting back to the green flag way of racing. Thurston on the bottom, it'll be Aiden Walker right up top, and at this time, Walker is going to be your control car, and he brings the field back to green. He's got Jacob Wilkerson right behind him, looking to get things settled in as quick as we left it. Walker toe-to-toe now with Thurston's going to have a slightly better run coming off the corner, and that's going to be good enough to take the lead and have the advantage now heading into turns 3 and 4. Side by side at the head of the pack. Further on back, yes, there is single file action, but it looks like more so we're beginning to see that double file practice come into play. Let's see what's up next now for a driver like Bryce Kohler, as he's just behind Chase Schaefer and missed the highest spot. It appears Schaefer's been in all night long. Chase, he did not start this race with the field. He was 28th and last to register and was as low as 26th. He's now at his highest spot in 9th and fighting side by side with Hunter Bogdan to get up there into 8th. It looks like Bogdan comes up top. He will block and not going to make it any easier now for Schaefer in that 99 machine. He's going to have himself a little bit more time to think about what's next if he wants to keep on going as aggressive as possible. Mason Moriarty giving the call to the driver, and it looks like there might have been a penalty just handed out, as he's going to say you can go to perhaps the 56 of Corey Lyles. However, no word just yet on whether or not that is official. Antonio Mancini also coming through. He is 1 lap down as it stands, and he finds himself now up top trying to make a move on the 66 of Beaver Serrano. No dice yet. 50 laps up at the head of the field. Aiden Walker working well so far with a brand new look, mint green, and of course he's got it all whitened down with his bright highlights, which shine tonight as the Atlanta night comes fully into play. The twilight hour coming to a close very soon here and getting closer to halfway. Expect the stadium lights before the job is done. 2x2 with a little bit of 3 wide up top. Hunter Bogdan trying to lead it up there, but he's in the wall, and they'll have to get away from the 86 and fast. So far, that inside line has been the safest. Middle groove has done a pretty good job as well, but can't say I would be trusting the high side, especially for the opening laps of this race, where there's still so much time, not as much of a need to be aggressive. Nevertheless, Hunter Bogdan will give up a few spots, and he'll let Aiden Walker and company continue battling for the lead. Take a look now at Chase Schaefer, the king of Atlanta here in the IORA Cup Series, with multiple race wins at this track in various configurations. You know, it all came down to that first one, Season 4, Atlanta, Mason Moriarty versus Chase Schaefer. It was a 2,000th of a second difference. Chase Schaefer, the man who got the job done. And then, in Season 5, he straight up won it in the old configuration. And it looks like now Schaefer looking for his 3rd consecutive season as a winner here in Atlanta. And even though it's another different configuration, an early sign of having success is how quick he's moved up through the field. 53 laps from dead last up to 3rd in a 28-car field. And now he's looking for the lead at the line. Chase Schaefer going to be scored in 2nd, but with help up top from Nathan Palawada, real chance here that Chase is the man at the head of the field for the first time tonight. So we go, 2x2, up and in front. A little bit of perhaps shuffling in the outer portion of the top 15 in company, but most drivers seem relatively stable, even if, of course, they're going back and forth, line after line. Atlanta, sometimes you might see these drivers get 2-file and stay 2-file. This double wild format is not going to work out for Chase Schaefer. He'll be turned, yellow flags out, and your leader's involved. Aaron Schugel, Alexander Balderas, further on back. Page barely gets through. Beaver Serrano gonna get away with minor front end damage. Daniel Moss stellar spins. Cautions out for the 3rd time tonight. And the incident in question involves a man who went from the bottom to the top. He is now down in 20th again. That is Chase Schaefer. Here's an instant replay. Let's just, of course, look back, figure out what caused it. Side by side, oh, Schaefer wiggles, gets up into Nathan Palawada, and that was involuntary. Mancini comes up side by side with the 26. Drivers are sliding by this point, trying to get away. Schugel barely gonna get clipped. And then from there, Alexander Balderas, Hunter Bogdan and company all catch a piece. Casey Bentz got very lucky in that number 97, and perhaps the luckiest of all those in the field. Daniel Mosteller still going to be rolling and sliding from that point. Here's an instant replay. Take a look right back. This time on board with Casey Bentz, the man who barely avoids the wreck up on the top side. and it hit everything but him. Contact with Carter, but otherwise, number 27 gets away almost scot-free. Regardless of how intense that incident was, it looks like things play out in his favor. And so Casey will live another lap in that number 27 without having to use a faster pair. Pit road busy once more. Majority of the field opts to come in. And here's now Thurston getting back on the way. Race off pit road is going to have the number 96 advantageous over all those who just came in. "57 laps in out of 100. Aiden Walker maintains the lead spot. Jacob Wilkerson now is in second. And look who is in third, Jake Raven in the number 37 machine. Wilkerson is going to be P2 now, just ahead. But for Raven, he's found a way back up in the podium places. And more specifically, he's up in third. Coming back to green at lap number 59 here, Aiden Walker, race leader. It will be your third restart of the night, and it looks like right now weather conditions have very slightly shifted. Air temperature of 78 degrees Fahrenheit and a track temp of 83, so mild changes, and they shouldn't mean all too much. The only weather that might make much a difference is the relative humidity, which is now up to a high of 41%. It was previously in the 30s when this race got started, so admittedly, that might be troublesome. More so than dropping temperature, raising humidity will not help out these drivers one bit. So they'll have to deal with a very slick circuit that has only gotten slicker, which might in part explain another incident as quick as we left it. All three cautions happening within the last 16 laps of racing. So here we go again, hoping to keep ourselves on a better note for the second half that we're coming up to so quickly. It'll be the number 93, Aiden Walker, race leader. And then from there, Bryce Kohler, and you got Jacob Wilkerson, Clark Nance, and Jake Raven. Choose rule, going to shuffle up these drivers once again. Looks like a few drivers get ahead. A few drivers decide to pull back and continue to stay in the middle of the field. As the iRacing pace car, Let's Go, takes that left turn down and in, it's going to be the number 93 of Aiden Walker once again holding forward. A new driver at the head of the field to go with them in Bryce Kohler, and let's see how he handles it, getting a jump, but a much better one to the inside. Wilkerson and Walker alike in sync, and they'll get away now, single file for the race lead. Outside, hardly a start, and every driver who's not on the inside is laying back, and they are laying back easily. Second half of the field may be a little bit tighter, but right now it looks like most drivers up in front got away, and now all in formation. Aiden Walker to be leading, Jacob Wilkerson is in second, Jake Raven has himself in third, but that could change now. Here comes Jim Thurston up to the top side. Nobody else to help him so far, and if he does get shuffled out of line, there's Henry Kaloff who might take his place, but the 96 is interested in maybe seeing what he can do to perhaps get the advantage and push down the back straightaway and use the side draft to hang tough and maybe bring the outside groove with them. He's still got Bryce Kohler, who is only a few tenths of a second behind. Maybe there's an opportunity in there with that number 21 machine. And Alexander Balderas, despite the fact he involuntarily came off the track before, well, he's back again. And more than that, he finds himself now up and at the head of the field inside the top 10. Just about the best it's looked all season long, of course, for the 95. Its first start, and what could have been, of course, no races attempted, immediately changes, and it looks like Balderas now on the book for a part-time schedule on the campaign. He's got himself toe-to-toe now with Clark Nance. Very little else has come of it so far, but it looks like his patience will be what he's tested on. every driver tonight. The test is patience here in Atlanta, maybe even more so than Daytona. You took the lessons learned from the bigger track, and now you're applying it where everything is a little bit closer, and we're getting closer to the end of the race even quicker. 59 laps remaining as it stands. Working down the back straightaway, Aiden Walker holds fort and keeps the lead. Then you have Jacob Wilkerson and James Thurston going at each other 2 by 2. Once again, the leading pack is beginning to double up, and it looks like now these drivers with less and less fear each time by of getting something going with a little bit more aggression. Some drivers have gone down to pit road twice, some of which have gone down 3 times, some of which have gone down 4 times now. And it looks like for drivers who have come down a pit road many a time, Aiden Walker is one of which who has decided to be a little bit more of an abstinent figure when it comes down to pit road. He has gone down only once, about 23 laps ago, but we got our first of cautions. Ever since that point, it looks like he's decided to stay out in the head without having much concern about going down to inside, of course, to pit road with anything else. But, of course, a refuel. Tires for him might be the more lucrative option, and with the way we've had yellow flags many a time in the past few laps, it's almost as if he always has the opportunity to go down and in. As going down and in is Alexander Balderas in the number 95. Balderas going to opt to go down low, and it looks like River Page also giving the sign for voluntary passing last lap. He falls down to 17th. Balderas decides to drop down to as low as 20th there in just one maneuver. And of course, that's not something that these drivers are doing without a reason. And it might not just be straight up fear of the pack, it's more so trying to see what the best option is for the rest of this race. If you've seen cautions so far and you've seen why they started, you don't want to be around the area where they start and be with the people who have caused them. Up top, Jake Raven, a little bit of a bobble, but Thurston's going to adapt and give him just enough room. Not going to be a problem. Could have been maybe a little bit more so if these drivers didn't give each other that space, but that was the appropriate maneuver from both of which, and that's going to avoid an incident for now. So Raven continues to battle for the 3rd position here. He's got Jim Thurston right up top, and with 55 laps to go and still counting down, it looks like the number 96 machine has himself now an outside group to contend with, namely Bryce Kohler and Will Shack. Now it's going to be Shack moving Kohler up the track, and it looks like no longer will the 21 have a chance to hold the fort in that position. He's going to have to give it away as fast as possible. Clark Nance gets through, down to the inside. Mark Zines, number 99 of Chase Schaefer is back. Chase, he concludes the top 10 once more, although, of course, the 99 was involved in an incident from the race lead. He has used his one and only fast repair. He cannot afford to be involved in another incident, so if something comes his way, that could be it. Walker finds himself still leading, and it looks like now top 10 are all those who are double filed. The rest of the field beginning to fan out once again, as we saw previously. Schaefer, now just ahead of Alex Anderson, a driver we haven't spoken of since the first 10 or 15 laps. Alex had a little bit of trouble there with the tires beginning this race, and looks like the humidity and such caught up to him rather fast. Now, luckily it isn't a race-ending circumstance, and rather he's now got a chance to put himself inside the top 15, but he's got to adapt to it. The tires today are going to be the most important part of this race. Fuel, yes, it will play a role for the remainder of the event, but at the same time, we've already seen it play a role. It's not as if these drivers don't know what they're doing with the numbers, but it's a brand new Atlanta night setup. iRacing bringing this track to life with the stadium lighting for the first time, especially now with the SuperSpeedway configuration. It means that much more. So expect the field to be a little bit more patient as you've seen tonight, even in the later laps, although right now they are definitely testing their limits. And there's no reason not to. Why not now figure things out before it gets very treacherous, and instead prepare yourself for what is yet to come. Aiden Walker, the 93, still is your race leader this time by. And it looks like he's going to try to keep it that way until the job is done. Maybe he feels he was denied a chance to get to victory lane. When it comes down to the racing at Daytona, everyone, somewhere or another, feels slighted at the chance of victory falling before their eyes. But for Walker, I would say he has the most convincing argument of anyone. In those last few laps, it was almost certainly his race to win. It just didn't turn out to be that way. And now working down the front straightaway in the back once again. The 93's got the lead, and the 43 of Wilkerson comes right with Thurston, Kaloff, Raven conclude the top 5. Here's Jake Raven, who's done a real good job and might be the rookie of the race. Keep an eye out for the drivers who are showing up and showing out as rookies this season. Jesse Martinez, perhaps the real rookie of the race from last week's performance, did a great job, of course, in putting himself up in front and making himself comfortable. Raven has raced some of these drivers. Not many, but he does have familiarity with the JFR guys like Corey Lyles, Aaron Schugel, maybe a little bit more with some guys like Gwetchy or Kaloff, guys who bleed into other FTN leagues. But he's still relatively unfamiliar overall, and now trying to assimilate in a very intense competitive environment? Well, now, that's when things get tricky, but he's done a pretty good job of which. Let's ride on board here with Jake Raven. Take a lap on board and hear everything going on inside the cockpit. Right now, Jake Raven can be tunneling through that back straightaway at a speed of about 175 miles an hour. Doing a fantastic job so far, of course, keeping himself in a straight line. And that's easier said than done. You've seen drivers who seem to be in perfect control, weaving and bobbing, and one wrong wobble could send you up all the way to the top side of the circuit and practically end your race. Luckily for Jake Raven, although he has already used that one and only faster pair, it looks like so far he's got himself in a good position to not use any once more. It's all said and done from here. Unless it's minor damage, it would be a race ender. So hopefully, right now for Jake Raven, he's going to have himself in a position he can escape from an incident, which is also something drivers definitely have to think of. You got to position yourself wisely. Even if you find yourself maybe in a spot where you're comfortable with what you're looking at, it doesn't mean all too much because things can change on a dime. The only driver who might be comfortable, I would say, is Aiden Walker, but even then, it's not like that's a guarantee. As the race progresses, of course, drivers move around, make themselves known in different positions, and circumstances, they continue to change. Right now, though, it looks like Aiden Walker's circumstance has not changed in the slightest, rather the opposite. So far, he has led, of course, the past 4 laps, and more than that, he has led 29 of 77 laps on the day. So he's done a wonderful job so far. Above all else in the field, with the numbers and with the pace. And it looks like that's the winning attitude that's going to land him in victory lane eventually once again. No doubt he's had the speed, and no doubt he continues to possess it, but now it's all about executing when it matters most. And that's the question, when does it matter most at Atlanta? Maybe that's a little bit of a different answer than Daytona or Talladega. We often say setting yourself up with 2 laps to go, maybe a little bit less than that. That's a good way to go about it, but perhaps it's altered at Atlanta because this is a smaller track. You can't be exactly the same as you would be at a track, say, Daytona or something of that nature, Talladega or any other track with that length. Here in Atlanta, laps come by quicker, there is less time to adapt, and your approach, it does get changed. Like it or not, the field does have to deal with the fact you cannot take things the same, even if it's a very similar driving style. And that driving style, it fluctuates. Regardless, of course, of what you know, you're going to face things every race that are different from something you've seen before. It's a matter of fact, and that's, of course, what it's all about. Aiden Walker right now going to find himself positioned with Wilkerson, and now Jim Thurston goes up top. The challenges on the high side have been fluctuating all day long. Maybe that's one of the biggest things that a driver like Walker has to deal with. Drivers who you might not expect up top, they'll go up top, because that's the best opportunity anyone has to really make a move on the dominant inside line. Inside has been the winning groove all night long. Looks like that's not due to change anytime soon, and with the way Walker's been going at it, I doubt it will if he just keeps on going with what he's got here. Thurston, though, up top has Vincent Guecci, and the most help up top in the last 20 laps is now coming to fruition. Field is side by side from about 1st to 20th now. Looks like Jacob Wilkerson still stable, as is Aiden Walker. But now you'll see that momentum building. Thurston, Guecci, company there on back, all now putting the pieces together as Vincent is now beginning to blink in and out just a bit. Bad news for Guecci, of course, that affects him in the long term. But of course, it's only just begun. A few blinks back and forth might not mean much, but they could begin to be one of those factors that lead you to lose trust in the drivers around you. Again, that's what it comes down to when it comes to internet on iRacing. We mentioned the barriers. While they're not really programmed the same way as a safer barrier would be in real life, you have to deal with the complex factor of drivers being so close to each other all throughout. And with so many drivers packed up in such a small spot, top 20 drivers are within 2.3 seconds right now. Going back to Casey Bentz, one minor miscalculation, one minor driver error or server error could have everyone flying up and down the track, as we might see right now. Up top, Schaefer, Raven, and now coming down to the River Page. We stay straight, we stay green. The yellow flag will not be called, but oh, it's bad news for Page, Raven, Beaver Serrano. The yellow flag still not going to be displayed, but it is now yellow flag, Raven among others involved, and this one, not a safety yellow per se, but it looks like too much of a scuffle to leave it under green. Caution's out, and here's why. Up top, Chase Schaefer got shot again. This could end both Schaefer's and Raven's race. It looks like most likely it will be damage to Raven, maybe not race ending, and then you see here the number 37 blends back in. Beaver Serrano's up here, and the number 66 gets loose. It looks like he'll stay straight. Casey Bentz, more the same. Aaron Schugel, Nathan Palawada were just coming up into it at the time of the incident, and it looks like Chase Schaefer should be able to keep on going. No, he might have suspension damage, and it might be critical. Look at the right side, and look at the tire, the right front in particular. It looks like there is damage for the 99, and the yellow flag is out. Suspension troubles might be the end of day, as Chase Schaefer pit road for a prolonged period of time. He has gone one lap down, and so this will be the final mandatory pit stop of the night. You can make it on fuel and tire from this point onward, but of course, let's see if drivers have only one final opportunity to head down a pit road, or if more is due to come. Antonio Mancini is the net race leader, and it looks like Thurston's the man who wins the race off pit road. Mancini is going to be up in front, but it'll be Thurston, Wilkerson, Guecci, Walker, Sean Rowe, Alex Anderson, and Clark Nance. Daniel Mosteller and Bryce Kohler concluding the top 10 at the end of this pit cycle. Mancini has himself the race lead nevertheless. So it's Antonio now, for the first time all night long, the race leader. Let's see what Mancini can do with this position, whether or not he's going to give it up, whether or not he'd like to hold it. It all comes down to his preference here. Some drivers have tried it with old rubber, but I don't think with 25 lap old. Trouble, the number 7 machine can, of course, keep it out there. It's trouble if, of course, he decides to hold for it, and that he won't. So Raven, looks like talking about the incident with Chase Schaefer. Looks like the call officially would be net code, as he and Chase Schaefer were both going at it. Now the number 7 of Mancini goes down in and will give away the race lead. Thurston, Wilkerson, Guecci, 1, 2, 3 as we're double file again. 35 laps left here for drivers, and the home stretch is officially underway. Laps have gone quick here in Atlanta tonight, with 86 laps completed. I think now we have a pretty good understanding of who's the man to beat. So far, it has been Aiden Walker. don't count out Jacob Wilkerson at all. He's been the right-hand man of that 93 crew, and if those two stick together, I have a firm belief they will stay together up in front. Daniel Mosteller looks like for the first time is also up inside of the top 10. He's 7th currently. Clark Nance is going to be 8th behind, and Bryce Kohler is still in the top 10. For Demos, it's been a very quiet race coming back from that victory in Daytona. Doesn't really need anything all too much anyway, but regardless of which, now is a chance to make an impact and have a chance for the victory. Wilkerson going to lead the way here in the 43, and the EPI Toyota Supra grabs the gears. Green flags out again for 34 more laps. Jake Raven, a retiree after that incident, and Chase Schaefer 1 lap down. The remainder of the field still holds tough. Green flags out again for Wilkerson and Thurston as they barrel through the opening turns. Going to be Jacob Wilkerson, advantageous now with Thurston trying to fend off the 3-wide maneuver from Vincent Guecci. Vinny looks high, doesn't really think much of doing anything else, but starting to survey the area out, maybe looking if that extra groove is useful. Is it? Well, looks like now for Vinny, yes, it is, but only for a few moments. Alex Anderson might be another driver to go 3-1, and if there's a little bit more support, you can see it again come into play. Of course, immediately now, drivers are going to back down for the middle groove, but I think there's an idea going through these guys' heads. If you really want to stand out from the crowd here and separate yourself, well, why not try it up there? There is an extra groove for a reason, and maybe it's bound to be used, but I would still think it's a major risk. I'm not quite sure if we're going to see it just yet, but again, Guecci going about a half groove up. He's taking that survey, clean air, and comes back down once more. No risk of blowing motors so far tonight. We haven't seen any driver reporting temps being hot when in a draft, especially close to another driver, so it looks like that's not going to be a problem to be worried about, but perhaps these drivers still want the clean air just to make sure, for safekeeping anyhow, their motors do not blow, which of course is one of the better practices here. Having a motor blow at the head of the field would be disastrous for everyone, regardless of what position you're in, front or back. There are going to be consequences, and so looks like a little bit of a bobble there, and that was Sean Rowe. Tonight, Sean's going to find himself in the blacked out Toyota Supra, and it looks like he's going to have little trouble getting back up on the circuit, and he's going to now be just beside Hunter Bogdan. Rowe's going to drop about 4 spots with that. Nothing too absurd. However, he will give some room to a rookie that hasn't had a chance, and maybe now he's the man who's going for Rookie of the Race. That's Andres Varas, another driver looking to make an impact and fast with the flaming hot Doritos paint scheme. He's coming in hot and now up to 8th, which is overall the second highest position he's been in all race long. He's been higher on a stint previously, up to 4th. However, it looks like in this longer format of running, we haven't seen too much of him. He's been a top 10 driver before. He's looking to keep it that way until the tail end. And maybe this time he can stick it up there as Demos gets loose and almost gives way to another driver passing him. Looks like now Thurston, the number 96 crew, hold tough, up on the high side. Wilkerson making it through. He's got himself the advantage down the back straightaway, and once again, the right-hand men, they've got each other's backs. It's Wilkerson and Walker, once again, the duo to speak of today. No teammates, no explicit teammates, shall we say, have really made the same impact as these two drivers have. Looks like there's a load of trust between them. We didn't see them at the start of the race, but when they hooked together for the first time, they not let go ever since. And I have a strong feeling now we're going to see this pairing come up in future super speedway events. If push comes to shove, quite literally, this might be the pair to watch out for in coming races. '43 machine going to see Thurston bobble just a bit. Regardless of that, the outside groove with a load of momentum there just to stay side by side. Almost got the pass, but didn't quite come of it as a result of that minor back and forth shuffle. 94 laps in out of 120 here, and it looks like with 27 laps to go, home stretch is in full swing, as we said before, but now it looks like we're starting to see something else beyond it being the home stretch in laps. It's the home stretch with respect to tire. No matter what here, these drivers are going to experience the track get a little bit more slippery lap in, lap out. Relative humidity up to a high for the race, 43.6%. And right now, 83 track temperature even still. Rubber gang laid down is going to mean that track temp is not going to become any colder. It's going to stay constant at 83 from this point henceforth. So humidity is going to be the big factor that decides, hey, do you have a chance to win or do you not? Can you manage the tire or is it a little bit too much? And justifiably, for a lot of these drivers right now, they're sitting back because it might be a little bit too much for them. And that's just fine so long as you can stay in the pack and not give other drivers trouble. Right now, the number one rule is don't be a nuisance. It looks like most drivers doing a great job at that. But for the leaders, it looks like they got a different priority in mind. That priority being surviving up in front, logging laps ahead, and keeping track position. Back of the field, don't wreck. That's what they'd like to see. Front of the field, keep chasing position and keep hanging tough. Jacob Wilkerson leading now. Jim Thurston right beside. Alexander Balderas up to 7th, one of the highest movers of the day, given the fact that he, of course, found himself way back. He went down a pit road and has recovered ever since, as low as 25th where he started, and it looks like now up into 8th. He's had a habit of doing these big moving gains as he's gone on in these last few FTN events. Saturday Night Thunder, he was the biggest mover because he started in the middle of the field, made it up inside the top 10, did a real good job there at Texas in a pack of more than 30 registered. Oh, trouble! Right behind Balderas, Clark Nance is going to go around. Yellow flags out with 23 laps to go. Carter involved. It looks like Beaver Serrano. Aaron Schugel is too. Caution is out again. And this time we're going to go back to restarting with only 20 laps to go. Clark Nance involved in another big one here in Atlanta. Take a look back. Let's figure out what happened. Up top, those, of course, multiple drivers go. Clark Nance, Antonio Mancini, Will Shack, Beaver Serrano, Michael Deitch, maybe a piece of Henry Kaloff too. And right there, 5 or 6 drivers immediately going to catch a piece. Looks like Casey Bent's also going to be tapped, although minor incident and really doesn't mean too much. Just both drivers trying to get out of it in the heat of the moment, making slight contact. And so, 22 laps to go. We are under yellow. Looks like now, coming up to the last moments of this event, 99 laps in out of 120. And coming to pit road, Jacob Wilkerson is with the number 87 of Daniel Mosteller. Yeah, it looks like the majority of the field who are leading will go in once again. At this rate, they're topping off on fuel. They're getting new rubber. L2 penalty to Antonio Mancini for causing the incident, and so it looks like he'll be given one of the bigger penalties on the season so far. Let's watch the race off pit road here and see who makes it out up and ahead. You got Wilkerson, you got Thurston who's still on the track, so two mentalities playing out differently right now. Thurston getting on the way, and now Wilkerson getting a move on out of pit road. He's got Daniel Mosteller right there with 21 laps to go, and we are coming back green in what looks to be maybe 19 laps left as it stands. .21 laps remaining. 99 laps in for Jim Thurston, who now has the race lead over Aiden Walker and Vincent Guecci, although it looks like both of those drivers, yes, they are still there. So, doesn't look like the leading contenders who we've been talking about in this race are completely out of the loop, but instead now, you'll see Thurston with a chance and the outside group of Guecci and Thurston alike getting the advantage through that scoring loop. They had the advantage of previously, of course, using that momentum, but could never find a way around Aiden Walker, at least under green. But it looks like now, with the scoring loops, giving them preference under caution, perfect chance. Down low, there was the 96 machine of Jim Thurston. He'll bring Vincent Guecci right there with. Looks like up top is where Aiden Walker's going to decide to put it, and he's got confidence again that the high side will prevail. This time, Alex Anderson's going to be his draft mate up in the top groove. Jacob Wilkerson went down a pit road and finds himself a few spots separate from the 93. They're bound to find each other again, though, with the way we've been racing. And we are due to return green now with only 19 laps to go. If you've enjoyed the action here live on FTN, well, we hope you click like on the stream, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for future events at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be commentating with Kenneth Bueno, Highline Racing League going short track racing once again, and it's always an exciting series to watch with that event, of course, coming up in just a few moments' time. Now, of course, 101 laps into the picture, we're going green again. More than 100 laps into this one, and we're going to crank it up right now, courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com for the highest quality sim racing product in camera. Well, there's no other choice. The best broadcasters use the best cameras, and they use track cams for gourmets. So we'll be right back after we get loud and get it back under green with 19 laps to go this time through. Restarting once again with Thurston back in control. It's time to crank it up with 22 laps to go, courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com. .15 laps remaining. Jim Thurston finds himself up and ahead, but right now things are due to change if these drivers continue battling each other the same way they have all night long. You're starting to see now a little bit more contentious action up at the head of the field, namely now Vincent Guecci coming up, as is Alex Anderson. Still going to be first and second, and both drivers keeping each other very honest now in these toe-to-toe last lap moments. Last few laps anyway for most of these guys in the field who know this is what what the race comes down to. Yellow flag, of course, could break up the action once again, but there's no denying the fact we have come this far, and there is no return. Alexander Balderas going to be up on the high side here, running in the confines of the top 5, and right now, right there with Aiden Walker, just alongside the 93. Hasn't quite been able to make the move up there because it looks like Anderson struggling on the higher groove to really get toe-to-toe with Thurston. No matter, there's still time, and I don't think there's much a worry so far for either of the drivers. As long as they can stay in this position, they're in a good spot to succeed in the coming laps. 13 laps to go, and it looks like right now as these drivers make their way through the last 2 turns, well, lap speeds have been just about identical, second over second, 10th over 10th. James Thurston there just ran a 31.374, and it looks like the time prior he ran just about 4/100ths of a second quicker. Differences are marginal now, and everyone's going to be bunched up to each other so tightly that the differences are going to be almost impossible to notice. The 95 of Balderas now getting pushed by Sean Rowe. Rowe, maybe one of the other drivers who felt slighted by not having the chance at victory. It was he and Daniel Mosteller who went to the line toe-to-toe. Demos with a clean block. Rowe decided not to make contact, and that was that. And so now with 11 laps remaining, it looks like this is the final step of the race. One driver going to bobble. That's going to be Vincent Guecci heading down the inside yet again. So 3 wide, 43 Machine's going to get right through. That's Jacob Wilkerson, and we mentioned it. He was going to find his way back to Aiden Walker. There you have it. Aiden now has his drafting partner once again. What can they do together to figure things out? That's the big question. 10 laps to go, and now the dominant duo of the day are once more put together again. Now only one spot behind the lead of the inside groove. Aiden Walker can sense that victory is on the table here. Thurston now is going to be the man he has to push after so many laps of being up alongside the 96. Now he's right behind him. Definitely a tricky spot to be in here. He's been, for a lot of this event, the line leader. Well, it's no longer the case now, and he's just got to deal with that. Maybe the best thing he can do is be a really good pusher and maybe get the 96 a reason to go up top. But so far, that reason has not come. Alex Anderson is there with Alexander Balderas, both drivers, the 67 and, of course, the 95, hang tough, toe-to-toe. At the line again, 8 laps to go here. Now it looks like Alex Anderson stays there with Alexander Balderas, still hanging tough in third. Anderson up top. Now has the high groove working well. Wilkerson, you can see, is laid back, but he's letting Aiden Walker do something a little bit different. Instead of trying, of course, to be a little bit more lenient, he's instead giving Thurston that chance to get up and ahead. That will move Alex Anderson down low. He'll go up top immediately, and now Thurston going to come back in sort of a parachute motion, returning into the confines of the number 93. 7 laps remaining. Thurston up and ahead even still. Now you'll see the outside groove has Daniel Mosteller with him. What can the 87 do now as he gets himself in the picture? It looks like surely now if Demos wants a chance to win, he can strike quick and hard. He's got Sean Rowe right there too. These two drivers started 21st and 22nd, and now they're up in a mix, and they find themselves now positions at the line. Looks like 7 and 8. 6th and 7th after final calculation. They're continuing to climb the ranks, but it comes down to whether or not they can make the move on Thurston or if Aiden Walker can do anything with that 96, which has been unfortunately something he struggled with so far for his case. All the while, Alex Anderson is looking for that first win this season. Of course, he's been here for a long while. He started this league, founded it, and he's been here since the very first race. But he's looking for something he has not done now in more than a year. He's looking for something he hasn't done now in more than 2 years. He's looking to win an IORA Cup Series race, and at long last, he's got the position. Shuffle. There's Thurston. He's going to get very loose and slow down drastically. No chance for Wilkerson. No chance for Walker. Big opportunity for Sean Rowe. He'll go middle of 3 wide and take the lead on the bottom. Antonio Mancini gets up in the wall but does not bring any trouble to those ahead of him or behind. Nevertheless, 4 4 laps left. What a move by Sean Rowe. Rowe's going to now be middle of 3. Contact up the track, down the track. And it looks like major wreck. Now yellow flags out, Mancini involved, Rowe as well. There's going to bring River Page, and the caution's out. We are headed to overtime, and the caution at that rate was inevitable. The 19 of Rowe, among many others involved. Take a look back and you'll see exactly what caused it, but you can imagine there, ping-ponging can't last for long. Take a look again, and it looks like as we go super slow-mo here, the number 19 of Sean Rowe hooked up the track after ping-ponging, gets into Daniel Mosteller. Looks like the drivers who were on the bottom will get away, but it's going to be Mancini and River Page right alongside. And so these 3 drivers definitely get the worst of it. Everyone else looks to have gotten out better. Oh, Bryce Kohler. And it looks like he gets away, as does Vincent Guecci. No major damage on the left side for either. So we head live once again, and you're going to look at the feed of drivers getting back up to the iRacing pace car. 2 laps to go, and this race will be extended for a green-white-checkered finish. The call is in that Alex Anderson will get an L1 penalty as a result. Nevertheless, he will be able to keep his starting position for this run. It is official now, mind you, that the Richmond Raceway has been selected for tonight's Highline Racing League event. So we'll be doing heat racing for the first time at Richmond, and we are excited, of course, to bring the field back to Virginia for the first time in that league since season 15. That was a long night, if you remember that one live on FTN. We went till midnight. A long one, no question. But tonight, looks like the IORA Cup Series will be ending before the 9 o'clock marker, which is about half an hour before our first laps in the Highline Racing League. So if you have time, of course, grab some popcorn, sit down again, and we'd hope to have you back for our next race. Richmond Highline Racing League Season 18 continues for its 4th round, and I'll be joining Kenneth Bueno on the call tonight. It's going to be a very exciting event, of course. Richmond, our first short track of the season, very similar to Iowa of last season, where Tyler Hampton came away with the victory. And here we have it, double file, as we are going to head now 2 laps to go. 67 of Anderson heads to the bottom, 95 Valderas is right up top, and it's going to be side by side between 2 drivers who have not won in months now, although Valderas does have a win from last season. Alex Anderson has been waiting for years for this chance, and now he's up and ahead as we come to 2 laps to go, this time by for our first green-white-checkered attempt. We have 3 green-white-checkered attempts available to us. This will count as our first. So if the yellow flag does come out again, then we will extend the race for upwards of 2 times. If the yellow flag comes out after both of our attempts, the race will conclude, and there will be no additional attempts at finishing on the green. We get to the white flag, the race is over as is. That's how it comes down to. Whether or not we get to the white flag determines perhaps who wins this race. Anderson, Balderas, Thurston. That's the 1, 2, 3 now, as the 67 is going to lead him through. Down goes the iRacing official pace car for what could be the last time tonight. 2 laps remaining in Atlanta. Nighttime sky is out, and it's all about the drivers here. Prime time in Georgia. Alex Anderson is going to get the race lead. The 95 machine Bolts out in the outside groove, but not enough to combat Thurston. And 96 now, Thurston's got Aiden Walker and Jacob Wilkerson on all sides of him, surrounding the Power Smash Infinity Speed Motorsport cockpit that he's riding in. Right now, the Chevys and the Fords going at each other toe-to-toe, and it looks like Anderson wiggles down to the bottom. Alexander Balderas, moreover, on the high side, tries to stay right with them. Looks like no trouble at the line. White flag, 1 lap to go. Anderson looking for his first victory in years. Balderas goes down to the inside, and he's got the race lead a car length ahead of the field. Anderson, contact with Walker once, twice, 3 times, 4 wide. Jim Thurston on the bottom with Daniel Mosteller. Now they're 4 behind Balderas, still trying to catch up. They wreck. It's Balderas' win, and that it will be. The field collapses behind Alexander Balderas. It's his 2nd career win. His first attempt brings victory back to the number 95. Alexander Balderas wins from 25th. And last on the grid. Two wins in the past 2 seasons, and tonight Balderas on a quicker start than even what he did in Season 5. What a victory for the 95 crew tonight. They knew that restart was the most important part of the race. Of course, everyone knows green-white-checkers are do or die. But the way he used that outside groove, slingshotting through 3 and 4, made all the difference. What a victory for Balderas. And look at that, the gap's diminished at the end of the race. And he is your race winner for the first time in Season 6. Balderas only led 2 laps today. He led to the white flag. He led to the checkered. That's all he needed to come home a winner again here in IORA. And so the 95 will continue that celebration here. Going to take that Polish victory lap perhaps around the circuit. And we're going to take a look at your race results to finish things off. It's going to be Alexander Balderas winning from James Thurston, of course, in 3rd. But it'll be Jacob Wilkerson sandwiched in between in the 2nd spot. Chase Schaefer comes back from major trouble tonight. He didn't even make it to the grid. And yet he finished in 4th. Aaron Schul concludes the top 5, and it'll be Henry Kaloff in 6th, Michael Deitch 7th, Nathan Palawada 8th, Will Shack in 9th, and Vincent Quetchy concludes the top 10. 11th place is going to be Corey Lyles with Aiden Walker there in 13th. It'll be Daniel Mosteller in P14, and the 15th spot goes to Bryce Kohler. Then you got 15th, of course, behind River Page in 16th, Andres Varas is 17th with Sean Rowe, then P18, Casey Bentz 19th, and it'll be Jacques Carter in position number 20. 21st on the order, you have it, of course, there, just beyond the confines of those who made it in the top 20. 1 lap down, and the first man 1 lap down, it appears, it's going to be River Serrano right there, in the outer portion anyhow. Antonio Mancini, 22nd, retired, with Hunter Bogdan, 23rd, Clark Nance, 24th, and Jake Raven in 25th, with Jason Semedo, P26, Jesse Martinez, 27th, and Marcus Vanderlee, 28th, and last of all those who came here to Atlanta for our first ever Atlanta Night Race. And tonight, the 95 is the driver that gets the job done, winning today, started in 25th. And yet tonight, Alexander Balderas from the back of the field on up makes his way to IORA victory lane for the 2nd time in his career, and he's 1 for 1 this season. Let's get a word now with your race winner, the number 95, who comes out on top. Overall, the checkered flag, perhaps the most unexpected of circumstances for the 95 crew. You led the white flag lap, you led to the checkered flag, but tonight was a series of up and down moments and laps that all led to the checkered. And tonight, Balderas, your second career win, your first attempt, and an immediate checkered flag for Season 6 here. What a way to start your season.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. Overall, I thought it was pretty interesting. The loose conditions were definitely something I was not prepared for. But overall, I decided to stay in the back and kind of, bide my way through the race. Don't want to stunt on the field or anything by saying this. I still have my fastie and an extra set, so it's possible to not be so bad, guys.
And it looks like tonight you played the strategy game well, avoiding those cautions. That's one thing in particular. You kept yourself quiet for the first 100 laps. It looked like you were far out of the race leading picture. You had a few moments in that lead group, but you found yourself a little bit further away for the most part. So what led you to be a little bit more, shall we say, out of the picture compared to usual?
Well, if it was a normal plate track like Daytona or Dega, and I was maybe, able to qualify or something, I would be at the front. With tracks like that, I know I'll be at the front. Dega and Daytona especially. Atlanta, I'm not too well versed in, so I wanted to stay at the back. With everyone complaining about the conditions, I also wanted to stay in the back. They wrecked pretty hard a couple times. My onboard was great for that parking lot. I think got like lap 45 or something like that, lap 60, about halfway. I had a great view of that wreck, but staying in the back really was my main goal for at least first 100, but I started moving up after people started dropping like flies later on. About lap 84, I think, I kind of told myself, let's start to try and get up there, if it's at all possible. But once lap 100 hit, I had my fastie, and I knew that, basically it's pedal to the metal from here. If I don't get up there, I'm never going to do anything at the front. So I had to get up there fast and try to stay up there as long as I could.
And it looks like you're able to make your way up there for the final 15 or so laps, and then the green-white-checkered hit. Nevertheless, it looks like those last two laps, what a move it was, of course, to put yourself in there on the outside groove. You had guys like Anderson, you had Thurston all around you. Surely it was intimidating, but it looks like you made it work, and the momentum off the white flag lap, that's what got you to win.
Yeah, it was really, I wanted to try and maybe pick the bottom because it's not super great. But if I could have picked it, then, maybe Anderson would have gotten such a good start. But once he picked the bottom, I kind of knew I had to, get it as best a restart as I possibly could. And I tried to do his best, but I knew he was going to gap me by at least a car length. Really, I can't thank Walker enough. He was the one who got me back up there in the position I needed. Then they all started scrapping behind me. I was able to squeeze my way through and just hold on to it for the final lap. And that's kind of what was able to get me through the race. But yeah, no, me pushing him, with especially as how they've changed the Xfinity car. You can't push as hard now. It's reminiscent of the early ARCA car, where it's not that you go under them, but a wrong tap really aggressively, not even that, semi-aggressively, can really mess up a guy in front of you. So I had to barely, you couldn't even dent your fingernail kind of tap Anderson there. So really, I was working as hard as I've been. I'm a little shaken up that I was really focused those last 20 laps. I didn't think I was going to get up there, but wow, what a way to do it.
And now with that first win in the picture, we were expecting, of course, part-time campaign this season, and what a way to start it. Watkins Glen next week, maybe a chance you'll come back and look for more?
Maybe a chance. Got to look at the football schedule, see if they're not back at Pridgeon, then I might turn up and turn around because the Berry Center's a bit too far from my house. But hopefully so. I'll be back for more races, and starting off with a win, that's pretty impressive. This is why I've now gone back-to-back in wins in IORA seasons for the first time in my history, getting the second win of my career. So honestly, really good. Glad we're doing the Xfinity car again. Rest in peace, Old Atlanta. These bozos voted out Old Atlanta, and I still came out on top. Old Atlanta is going back on the schedule next season. It better.
And there we have it. Alexander Balderas, nevertheless, getting the win here at New Night Atlanta. First checkered flag on the season. Any final thoughts or shout-outs you'd like to give?
Well, really, again, shout out to Walker. He was able to get me, up there. But talking with Mose, he said he was going to try and help me win if possible. I thank the guys around me at the front for racing me clean there at the end. And, I think the season's going to be pretty good. Mason was expecting this race to be a little rougher, and, the caution count may kind of prove that somewhat. But really, a lot of the cautions, almost all the guys saved it in the end. So really, I think this league's getting much better with cautions, much better with long green flag runs. And yeah, I think you saw today that when we get hooked up and when we get focused and going, we can produce some pretty good racing. So I'm excited for the rest of the season, see how it goes.
And a great way to start, of course, our intermediates tonight. And all things considered at New Atlanta, relatively clean until the very end. Alexander Balderas winning once again for the first time here at the Mini Super Speedway. Thank you once again for your time.
Yes, and thank you, David.
Now Balderas back on the move. Second place driver Jacob Wilkerson. Tonight he had quite the partner in Aiden Walker. Both of them looked bad fast all night long, but it looks like victory was not meant for the 43 crew tonight, regardless of such an effort. Jacob, tonight overall, very strong podium placement. I'm sure you had your eyes on maybe a little bit more, but the seas parted on that last lap to give you a chance for second place. I'm sure you're satisfied you weren't at least involved in that wreck.
Yeah, man. I honestly don't even know how I did not get collected in that, but me and Walker, we were dominating part of the race there. We were working together the whole time. The first green flag run, we were just chilling in the back, saving our tires, and we started to catch back up to the leaders, and then that caution came out, and we came up here road, got tires, and we somehow came out like inside the top 5 after pitting, and from there we just raced up front the rest of the way and managed our tires and kept the lead for a long time.
And you talk about tires today. You and Aiden Walker working particularly well, but we'll get to that first, of course, after asking about our track conditions. Heard tonight it was loose all night long. Humid track, and even in the nighttime, tires seemed to play a major role in succeeding. How was it for you, of course, managing the rubber tonight, which might have come into more importance than usual at this circuit?
Yeah, man. Especially entering the corner, it gets really loose entry, and if you like turn the wheel like just ever so slightly too hard, it will spin on you. We were basically it was just all about taking it easy in the corner. We were lifting in the corners and also in the middle of the corner just to keep our car as straight as possible, to not slide our rears at all. And yeah, basically as soon as you slide your rears like a few times, from there on out your car is just going to be loose the entire time. So me and Walker, we were just taking it easy the whole time.
Looks like taking it easy got you guys up there pretty successfully until the tail end of this race. Now, Green-White-Checkered, that's what determined it here, but long runs and short runs alike, you had pace, but maybe not anyone in particular besides Walker out there helping you. How was it dealing with the field here for 120 laps, one of our longer intermediate races, and trying to find out who's one to trust?
Yeah, me and Walker, and also we were also working with Sean Rowe. We were all 3 in the VC together. Basically, we were just all 3 of us were lined up on the bottom, and we were just getting pinched super hard. That's how the top was able to stay right outside, but they were not able to clear us yet. And basically, as soon as we were just basically staying bottom the whole time, because knowing that the top it could get massive runs, but also not, depending on if the guy behind pushes the right way, but they were not really getting hooked up as good as me and Walker were on the bottom, and yeah.
Well, all things considered, today, Jacob, second place on the order. Road course coming up next in Watkins Glen, and off to a strong start for this season. How are you feeling about heading to Watkins Glen for our next race?
Watkins Glen, I do not know. Like, usually road courses are not my thing on the service, so just gonna have to get some practice in and hopefully just do the best I could there. Like, I'm no good at road courses.
Well, either way, no good at road courses, but a good points data perhaps help you out in case of anything happening. Second place here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Any final shout-outs you'd like to give?
I want to appreciate everybody watching. Thanks to Todger for letting me race for PBR. Thanks to Race EPI and Burnt Rubber Racing Warehouse. Shout out to Walker and Sean Rowe for working with me the whole race. Thanks to you for broadcasting. Thanks to May for putting the league together. And yeah.
There we have it. Jacob Wilkerson, position number 2 here from Atlanta. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you.
Third place, final driver will speak to number 96 of Jim Thurston. Overall, podium sitting after a chaotic finish to this race, and the 96 once again back inside of the top 3. Strong tonight until the very end. Thurston rounding out the podium, and you were at the front for the majority of this race, despite all the final laps of that one. It looks like a few scars on the left side even before going 4 wide. Risky finish, but overall a strong night for your team.
Yeah, we just had a really rough night. I think that we had like 3 good shots to win that race there at the end, and then we made the possibly winning move down into turn number 1 on lap 117, and Alex just didn't really understand that we were 3 wide and turned down like we were 2 and hit Sean down into me and caused a wreck. And at that point, the car wasn't even that really that banged up from the first contact, but then Walker hit me and I saved it. And then we restarted. The car just didn't have any speed, and they wrecked really big on the last lap. Was shoving me down below the apron on the backstretch into turn 3, and yeah, there's nothing I could have done. I was below the apron. I didn't have any grip down there. Just trying to save it.
And it looks like, of course, tonight, that final moment of the race, very intense, and of course, that's what determined your finish. But from there on out, still able to come home with the podium. Let's talk a little bit more about what happened beforehand. You started 6th, had a very strong qualifying position, and for the opening 40 laps, we had that green flag run, our longest of the day. How was it for you, first off, of course, getting to grips with the track as a brand new setup here when we go at the night circuit, rather than when we race here in Atlanta in the day?
Yeah, it was a really loose setup. The track it races a lot different at night. It's got more grip once it gets rubbered in, and I thought that I don't know, it raced more like a super speedway a little bit. You just get really gridlocked with this car, though. I know unless you're pushing so hard, you cause big wrecks. You just really can't make moves. I'm not a fan of this place. Not a fan of the kind of tracks where you have to rely on the guy behind you to go quick. You know, if you got a good guy behind you, you're good as golden. But then you got a really slow guy behind you, and you may as well be dead last because you're not winning the race. But just really stupid racing here causes big crashes, causes people to be upset over it. I just want to go to a talent track where I can control my pace.
And you mentioned it well, controlling your pace, that's what Watkins Glen tends to come down to. You're one of the stronger guys on the road courses, and I can't imagine that confidence is gone as we return there again for, I believe, our 3rd straight trip on the schedule. How do you feel about heading back to upstate New York and maybe having a chance to control your destiny a little bit longer?
Yeah, I love Watkins Glen with this car. I'm not very good at saving tires at that track though, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think last season we had a really good shot at it and got held up. Wasn't able to really compete for the win there, but I'm really confident about what we're going to do there, and I think we can probably lock down the top 3 if we can't win. So first 2 races of the season, no matter how rough it was to get there, we got good points. So I think we just got to keep the momentum rolling, and the wins will just come as we get that.
Already building that momentum to start the season. Thurston, 3rd place here from Atlanta. Best finish so far on the campaign. Any final thoughts you'd like to add before heading forth to New York?
Just thanks to Power Smash Infinity Speed Motorsports. I had some really cool saves that race. It was dead sideways like 3 or 4 times and saved it. Especially that last one there on the last lap. I was being turned sideways and still saved the car to finish 3rd. Just I don't know. I hope we can have some better racing on normal tracks here soon, and I hope people stop voting these stupid tracks on the schedule. We need to have some more like talent tracks. The 2008 version of the track exists, guys. We can use it like we did last season and have a good race. But no.
And just like that, well, Thurston, 3rd on the day here from the SuperSpeedway Forum of Atlanta, and maybe next time we head back here will be a chance again to go to the classic variant. Thank you once again for your time.
Thank you.
And now with Thurston on the way, you heard from your top 3 drivers. Jim Thurston coming home in 3rd, Jacob Wilkerson in 2nd, Alexander Balderas winning for the 2nd time in his career, 1st of the season. Of the podium sitters, you might have noticed they all seem to make the same comment about this track. Atlanta, maybe not the biggest fan of this mini super speedway configuration. You might remember last year we went to the 2008 version of this track, which did not drive nearly the same. He drove much more like a traditional intermediate. We'll see whether or not it makes it back to the schedule next season and next year. But with that being said, tonight, we're heading out of Atlanta and making it to New York. Watkins Glen, our next destination on the schedule, and we'll be back next Thursday night with 40 laps of racing from Schuyler County, and we hope to see you there once again. Congratulations to Alexander Balderas on the victory here from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, live on FTN. You've been watching exclusive coverage of the IORA Cup Series. I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing, and we'll be back at 9:30 p.m. Eastern with action from the Highline Racing League as they head to the Richmond International Raceway for the first time since season 15. Thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to join the action, scan the QR code on your screen now, and you can register as a driver in the IORA Cup Series and in all other FTN broadcasted events. Thank you once again for watching tonight's coverage of the Georgia Knights 200. We hope you have a fantastic night.